What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Restoration Rundown Podcast, the podcast that's dedicated to you, the restoration business owner. My name is Ben. I am your host, and I'm the CEO of Ironclad Restoration Marketing, where I help restoration business owners get more sales by getting their internet marketing right. And I don't know if you're watching this and you can tell how excited I am today, but trust me, I'm very excited for the guest that we're bringing on. She is the maven of the restoration and cleaning industry. You may have heard about her. She not only is awesome, but she also runs the oldest and longest running publication in the restoration and cleaning industry, C&R Magazine. You may have heard of it. So I want you guys to join me in welcoming Michelle Blevins to the podcast. Hey, Michelle, how are you doing?
I'm good, Ben. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. And I think that that's the first time anyone's used the word maven. So thank you for that, I think.
Yeah, no, maven is a really good thing. You're like the expert.
Yeah,
I try to mix it up. I got a thesaurus hanging on my wall right here. So I get to choose different cool words for people that are cool and come on the podcast. So well, first of all, thank you so much. I know a lot of people out there that are going to be listening to this or listening to this live are going to know who you are. But for those people that don't, give me a little background on yourself, what you do with the restoration industry, how long you've been involved.
Sure. I've been in the industry about 7.5 years. I was with a different magazine prior to this. And I purchased C&R from the Restoration Industry Association in July of 2021. So that was when I was able to kind of go off on my own. And C&R has an amazing legacy within the industry. It was always kind of viewed as the thought leadership publication and had some of the best content, education, editorial from massive thought leaders in the industry and some of the pioneers of restoration like Marty King and Cliff Zlotnick and, those people who really pioneered what our industry is today. So I was thrilled and honored to be able to take it over. And since then, I've just tried to keep it going and growing and expand to the whole industry. And here we are today, still going and growing.
Yeah, no, you definitely are. I'm in the marketing business for the restoration world, and I've definitely been aware of C&R even before we even got involved in the restoration industry. So you mentioned you've been involved in the restoration industry for about 7.5 years, but you just purchased C&R last year. So can you walk me through a little bit of your background in the restoration industry for those people that don't already know you, who probably should, unless they're living in a cave?
Sure. So I stumbled into restoration. I will back up maybe even a little bit further. I worked in TV before this. I was the executive producer of a TV station in Northern Michigan. And even prior to that, out of college, I have a journalism and PR degree, and I was a reporter for a small town newspaper. That's where I really sunk my teeth into the idea of making relationships with people and how important those relationships are.
Yes.
And then sitting behind the desk, being an executive producer of a TV station, that was like a soul sucking job for me because you're not talking to anybody. You're just behind a desk working on rundowns every day. And it was terrible. I hated it. Stuck it out for 6 years because my husband also worked at the TV station and we're in rural Northern Michigan. So where else are you going to work?
Right.
And then I kind of stumbled on my last job. I was the editor-in-chief of C&R Magazine, so also in the industry. And I had stumbled on the job opening for that. And I had been really picky about what I was even going to apply for. My husband at that point had been job hunting in the Metro Detroit area for about a year. That's where our family's from. And we wanted to kind of get back home. But stuff just wasn't quite landing for him. His specialty is pretty niche as well.
Right.
And so I saw the opening for R&R. I was like, that sounds interesting. I've been to a lot of fires and floods and stuff like that, but I've been on the news side with the emergency crews responding. I had no idea other than one article that I did maybe in like 2010 on a local flood that happened in Indiana and the remediation efforts from that. And then they raised the house up on stilts. And that was a really big thing down there to raise house. Yeah. The floodplain, right? So that was my only exposure up until applying to R&R with the industry. And I thought, hey, that sounds kind of interesting and it's serving people. I'll apply. And I ended up getting hired. And I guess the rest is history. Here I am. I could never leave now. You're stuck with
it. And the cool thing is it's documented history when you're a journalist. Every little step of the way is traceable. So C&R Magazine is awesome. I mean, I look to you guys for advice, for tips and tricks to help our clients out with things that they're struggling with outside of marketing. Because as you know, being in this industry for a long time, there's a lot of things people struggle with. Yep. One of the articles I found recently in C&R, and by the way, if you don't know C&R, you need to go subscribe, get the printed one out, get subscribed to the mailing list and everything like that. And we'll go over that in the end and how people can connect. But one of the cool articles from this September, and it's something we've covered a lot here, trying to talk to the guys out there that might just be getting going in the industry Maybe they've had a business for 2 or 3 years, but I really think that's just getting going. I think anything beyond 3 years, like if you're still making it, you're all right. And people that are thinking about starting it, look, let's face it, this is a budding and evergreen industry. People need help more than ever, with not only with the natural disaster stuff, but with everything we're learning about the different types of mold and things we didn't know before. I came across the article written by Julia Lore. Is that how you pronounce her last name? It's called 6 Things to Consider Before Starting a Water Damage Restoration Business. What a cool article. It was a great overview, but you didn't write the article, but you have so much experience in the industry. I'd like to get your insight on things that people can kind of do to help mitigate some of the issues that we see people stumble in, even from the marketing and the development side. Just kind of an overview of some problems that you're seeing in industry and maybe direct them towards some people that may be able to help them, by learning something.
One of the things I'm surprised with are the number of companies in the industry of any size who seem to kind of like pigeonhole themselves in their markets. I can think of even like $100 million companies in large markets that don't get involved with the industry at all. They're not involved with the RIA. They're not involved with any like the MS. I'm totally blanking on it. The Mid-South Cleaners Association. That's a great one. There's a lot of, different organizations and ways that people can get involved in the industry or going to conferences. I mean, there are some that I've never met a single person from these huge companies at any conference or small companies. I think those are a good place to start. Get curious, try to meet fellow restorers who have been doing it for a long time. The RIA has come a really long way in the last few years, has some amazing new leadership, an amazing company that's running it now. So they've come a long way. That's a great resource to go to. And that's full of restorers that really know their stuff, right? And but they're also willing to share and are open. It's meant to have this open dialogue and sharing of, oh, yep, I've been there. I know what it's like to be low on cash flow. Yep, last week I thought I wasn't going to make payroll either. I tried that pay-per-click marketing tactic. That didn't quite work for me, but maybe you can try this. Or, hey, yeah, we just started selling to property management people. I have some ideas for you. Right. I think finding peers that are open to discussion, relationships, right? So much of life is a relationship game. So I guess that would be my first recommendation on where to start. There are a lot of conferences and trade shows to pick from within the industry. My editor's note in the last magazine was on a few of them, so people could go back and look at that to maybe get a few ideas. But yeah, there are also a lot of experts. Like, you have a great podcast and you talk about marketing, and you talk to a lot of other experts in the industry like Gokul and other people. So, gosh, there are so many different places you could go. Yeah. Also, every podcast in the industry is different, which I really appreciate. No two podcasts are even remotely similar, in my opinion. So you can find value from everybody. Everybody's talking to different people. Everybody's having different conversations. The platforms are different. The style is different. So, like, if my podcast isn't your cup of tea, or Ben's podcast isn't your cup of tea, but hopefully it is because you're listening to it, so it must be. Just go and search for the other podcasts in the industry. You can, they're not that hard to find, and there's a wealth of information and experts on those. Also, don't hesitate to reach out to people for introductions. If you're starting to make those connections with people nearby and you're like, hey, I really could use a good attorney connection, or I need a good marketing agency, or whatever that may be, don't hesitate to ask for introductions. People tend to be very happy to connect you with the people who have helped them win in their restoration business. I don't know that maybe you can speak to this too. I don't know that I've met an owner that like is ever closed fist, like, and doesn't want to share the wealth.
There is. And, I want to back up a little bit for what you said, because it's really cool. I love to draw parallels when I speak with industry professionals, because, I can speak as to the marketing side of business and how the whole entire ecosystem of marketing and running a business is really all the same concepts and ideas, no matter what industry you're in. One of the things that you mentioned before are, actually what you've been talking about is joining these associations. And what we preach here is it being omnipresent, right? From a marketing perspective, digitally omnipresent, and on the surface level, we're talking Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, if it behooves you. And obviously having some sort of presence on search engines. But a big part of our omnipresence method, we have this little cool graph we send out to new clients, and we have it on our website, is industry associations. And even for myself, being a digital marketing agency, I'm a member of a ton of digital marketing agency in associations. We have a coaching and mentorship that we go to conferences and we talk, and we, just like you said, everything that we're struggling with, we have people that we can reach out to via Facebook groups or books or podcasts that'll help us get over those hurdles. So, if you're listening to this, you're a restoration business owner, I don't care if you've been in business for 30 years, things are changing, and they change very rapidly, especially in the landscape of digital marketing. So having these coaches and mentors are important. Subscribing to magazines like C&R is huge. I mean, Michelle, you have some of the biggest heavy hitters in this industry, people that have multiple 7-figure companies, bought and sold companies left and right for their whole entire life. So why not take that advice and try to, you learn from your brothers, you don't make their mistakes. And speaking of the guys that are the closed fist, I agree. There's not a lot of people out there that are closed fist that don't want to share information. And typically the ones that are, and I can only speak to this, I run a site development company as well. So we run into this little problem sometimes. You shouldn't look at your competitors as competition, right? There's a lot of work. There's a lot of room to grow. And there's the fortunate part of this industry is that there's restoration companies, a lot of them all around. So joining the RIA is huge. Don't misstep. Sometimes the misstep with new businesses means you're not in business anymore. So if you can help save money on marketing or an attorney or get a good adjuster or something like that, that's just going to help you with your struggles. And again, everybody has the same struggles in every industry, but especially in the restoration world. So why not learn? So I thought that was great. And again, there's so much out there, free information, and it's very important to me. We do the podcast. I wrote a book on how to do all of your digital marketing by yourself. If you're in a situation where you need to do that, I believe in the giver's gain mentality. You provide value, and you're there to help. And fortunately, a lot of people follow along, and they're doing that. So if you are not talking and you're not joining these associations, you need to do so. I actually was surprised that you said that there's a lot of these big companies that are not.
There's a lot, which is really surprising. They just kind of live in their own ecosystem, which is fine. It just, I guess, is a shame to not see them involved more so in the industry. There's a lot that could be done, and there are areas where we need to come together, like when it comes to maybe pricing and working with adjusters in the direction that the industry is going with all of that. And we just need to work together. So I don't know. We don't have to be besties, but I think together is a good thing. I was going to say something else to something you said, but I can't remember what it was. So keep going. It'll come back.
If it pops into your head, just interrupt me. I like clench my fist not to interrupt people sometimes, and we're fully interruptible program here. If anybody that listens has heard, we interrupt a lot, we talk a lot. So joining the associations is huge. And if you are a business that's successful, be open. Join these Facebook groups. Restoration Rebels is awesome. I love just following along and looking at the banter back and forth. I've learned a lot just by seeing people post their problems. And then there's a select handful of people that are always in. John Isaacson, God love him. He is one of my favorite people. I've had him on a couple times. We're hoping to have him on more regularly just to teach, because he is just like, he epitomizes the giver's gain mentality. I mean, I don't know how he even has the time to answer so eloquently on a lot of these posts. And I know that he is on your, he writes articles for you quite a bit. So he's a guy definitely out there that you're going to want to get on your radar soon, if you haven't even already heard of him.
I'll add something into that. John actually just started a 4-part series on profitability, and it's on O&P. That's going to be in C&R. And it's actually, John wrote the first article, but the second one's going to be written by Anthony Nelson, who used to be a restorer out of Hawaii. Now he's kind of going out on his own, doing his own thing, but he knows his stuff, especially when it comes to the technology side. Ben Justison is going to be involved, and Ed Cross is going to be involved. So that's going to be quite a heavy hitting 4-part series on O&P, overhead and profit, and what that means for the industry. Right. So to, again, people who aren't subscribed, the first one just came out in the September-October issue, and it'll be running through to the March-April issue next year, since we publish bi-monthly. So be on the lookout for that series. I'm really excited for. This might be the series I'm most excited for since I've taken over C&R. I think this is such a huge topic, and restorers are like, I don't know what to do. Can I get O&P? They told me I can't. I don't. How much profit should I be making? What does this look like? Everything, costs are changing right now, and with inflation, everything that's going on with the economy, things are a little wild. So The other thing I was going to add in there, you've talked
Mhm.
about the giving mentality. I was going to toss a book in here. I had somebody gift me The Go Giver. I don't know if you've read
Okay.
that book, but that's
No.
a great, really easy book. It's more of like a story than like a traditional business book where it's just like kind of talking at you. It's a story that
Yeah.
outlines this go giver mentality and how you can rock your sales to pieces if you adopt that go giver mentality. You really don't have to be a salesy salesperson to have rock star sales numbers, right? So I would really recommend that book to anybody who likes easier reads and is interested in kind of that giving mentality in their sales world.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I'm a big believer again, outside of, connecting with people in the industries, but reading.
Yeah.
There's so many books out there that you can read. And as a business owner, I try my best to read every day. I have a whole stack that I'm trying to get to incrementally. Obviously life gets in the way, but if you're, most of the people we're talking to or listening to this probably spend a lot of time in their vehicles driving
Yeah.
back and forth. So get an audiobook and listen to this stuff, because everything we talk about, everything in C&R, everything I talk about on this podcast, when we talk to our clients, when we're working with restoration industries to help grow their businesses, it really all boils down to the same concepts, right? Which is be consistent, be present, and learn and constantly give away this value and information, and things will grow. They just come into place. So we talk a lot about trying to change the mentality from thinking about goals, right, and working on your processes more, right, and your systems that you have in place, because everybody has the same goal, right? We all want to make money. We all want our businesses to grow, which is great. But the thing that separates people that are making it and not making it is the people that are making it are focused, so hyper-focused on their processes and their systems, doing things like you're doing, and just creating these connections in the industry. And it bears fruit down the road. It's like growing a garden. You can go to Publix, or we have Publix down here. I'm sure you guys have different grocery stores in Michigan.
That's fine.
Oh, Kroger's cool. They got Kroger's here right now, so they're new coming in. I'm from the Northeast originally, so I'm familiar with the Kroger's and all the other ones that are in the different states. So you can go to Publix and buy your groceries, or you can plant a garden that'll be evergreen, right? So it's really cool, and I love having different people on, because it's fun for me to kind of draw these parallels between industries, right? To do the right thing and be present in your business and follow the ironclad omnipresence method. And it is solely centered around marketing, but two of the biggest bubbles on this list that we have are joining the associations and educating yourself.
It's a step that you have to take. And I think it's also, which I know, as a marketer, and I think you even made a comment to me when we were on the phone once, which I really appreciated, talking about content and not expecting immediate results all the time. I think marketers can get really wrapped up in like their ROI, their immediate clicks, all of that. And that's really like, those are good and important, but you're really missing a lot of the picture of your marketing, right? If you're just worried about like the number of clicks that you actually got through, there's so much more to it. You could have gotten like tens of thousands of eyeballs on that. So, but you're worried about the clicks and, or content that, you might have low reads now or low listens now, but that's going to be there for forever. And that's going to grow over time. It's going to show up on Google. It's going to show up other places, get shared more. So don't think that if you're not seeing immediate numbers right in this minute, that it doesn't mean that it's not going to pay huge dividends later.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And it's, again, there's another one of those things that you draw a parallel to. We talk about planting a garden. People don't see the big picture sometimes. And I get it. I have had multiple businesses. I understand. I want to put money in and I want to get money out. But you can't think about this, as counterintuitive as it may sound. You can't think about it like that. You have to think about, I'm growing a garden, or even something like, you want to be on a health kick, you want to have a weight loss journey or something like that. If you stood on the scale every single morning for weeks on end, you're not going to be probably happy with the results, or you're not going to see them as well. But if you stand on a scale once and then you stand on a scale in a year and you're focused on your processes, you are going to make it. You are going to be astounded at the progress that you've made. And we deal with this a lot. As you know, SEO, things like that, they take months of investing in time and people and processes and systems before it really bears fruit to jump on the first page of Google. Look, this is one of the most competitive industries in the world. So if you think that you're going to hire a marketing company that's just going to come in, flip a switch, you're going to be number one, you are not ready to hire a marketing company yet. And unfortunately, and I'll put myself in the contractor's shoes, there's a lot of marketing companies that say they can do that. And you got to run away from people like that. You have to remember that your digital marketing, your business operations, your O&P, profitability, all that stuff takes a huge investment in time, energy, and money. And if you do it consistently and you focus on your processes, it'll work. You'll break through that 2-year window of struggling, and now you're profitable and now you're growing correctly.
Yep. Yes, you're absolutely right. Okay, what else are we chatting about? I can keep chatting, but
me too. So one of the other things that I'm noticing a lot, okay, here's a huge problem that I'm seeing, and I'm seeing in my other businesses, HR.
Yeah.
You had an article yesterday. 2023 HR top trends and priorities. Can you walk us through a little bit? I know a lot of people out there, I see this in the Rebels posts. They're having a hard time hiring or even just retaining employees because everybody's so busy in every industry right now somehow. So talk to me a little bit about that article, and even Marcy a little bit. I love this article, even though we're in a different industry.
Marcy is amazing. She's the director of HR for Guarantee Restoration in Louisiana. So obviously massive company and has been in the industry for a while. She really knows her stuff. So she actually authors a monthly article it's a digital article that appears. It's in the, I guess the last Tuesday of the month e-news. Anyway, she's a monthly contributor and it's all on HR. So she contributes these team talk articles. She actually just finished a series. I wanted to make sure I had the name of it right, on the employee life cycle. And it was like a probably 5-part series. So the first article is on attraction, then recruiting, onboarding, development, and then the exit, what it looks like when an employee leaves your company and how to handle that appropriately, do good exit interviews, those kind of things. And then she rolled out yesterday these top HR trends in 2023. I don't think that there's any secret that recruiting and hiring is not probably going to get a whole lot easier. I just did a podcast a webinar last week with Leighton from Know How and Phil Rosebrook on continuing this. Know How had published that book on why workers quit and did that big study, and it was the cover story of C&R earlier this year. And Know How is really good at doing their research and had talked to a lot of technician and project manager level people in the industry to kind of gather what's attracting people into the industry, what's keeping them, what's making them go, that kind of thing. So I don't think that these conversations are going anywhere. I think that people need owners specifically, and I feel like a broken record saying this, and I hope that at this point everyone's heard me or somebody else say this. You can't keep putting ads on Indeed and hoping that you're going to find people. Please stop it. It's not going to work. One of the most interesting techniques I have seen are, which again, I think most people have heard about this by now, but is like making business cards that says like you're a service superstar or something like that on it, and then has the company's info or whatever. I know of several companies that actually require their team to give out maybe like 5 of them in a week to people that they meet when they're going about their days. And then, there's no one else to better represent your company and bring talent to you than your employees. One thing for you to be the owner or HR or whatever and recruiting people, but when your team is going out and saying, hey, your service was awesome today, this is the company I work for, we'd love to have you come work with us maybe, or like give us a call for an interview, that speaks volumes.
You could talk about yourself until you're blue in the face, and nobody's gonna care. And as soon as somebody else champions your business or whatever you're doing, it goes a lot further. I mean, it's funny. We guys that are listening to this that have heard a couple of the episodes, don't we talk about this all the time with just getting Google reviews, right? What's the best way to do it? Always try it, be consistent, have other people talk about you, and they just lend into the bigger picture, keep filling up that pot of getting you the exposure that you need. And hiring is very similar. There's a lot of people hiring. There's a lot of noise out there. So you have to figure out how to cut through the noise. We used to talk, I don't know, a couple of years ago, we used to try to coach our clients into making recruiting videos, just having employees interview them, just no different than I would get a testimonial from a client, getting a testimonial from your employees and throwing that out with a very modest Facebook budget and just seeing if you can capture people. So if you do that mixed in with having your employees out there, handing business cards out saying, hey, you need to come over here. You're doing a great job. And that, all this stuff, it's really awesome how it all ties into the core operations of your business, is being transparent and consistent. And if you're creating this culture, I know John has his Be Intentional Culture book, and we've talked about this a lot. It goes a long way, especially when the competition's out there for hiring.
I was surprised on the webinar that we did last week that a few people, we asked a question about onboarding, which is important on the recruiting aspect of things. And a few of the owners were like, well, once they know how to do their job, it's done. And like, oh, please don't bring a new employee in on the first day and put them on the truck with somebody.
There you go.
Wish them on their merry way.
Yeah. Please. You're setting yourself up for failure, and you're setting them up for failures, is managing those expectations off the bat. And onboarding is huge. I strongly believe in having a really solid kickoff. And obviously you follow through with, your service and what you're doing, but that's really important to us here at the company. We've sat down in multiple meetings, and we have a really cool stuff that we do for new clients and send them gift bags. And we're constantly touching base and trying our best, with handling the day-to-day. But it's so important to have that strong kickoff, because from my end, clients are taking a big risk in their eyes. A lot of times, I'd say over 90% of the clients we deal with have been just absolutely burned, or they've burned themselves, just not really understanding the expectations, not giving things time to thrive. So we want to make sure that we're transparent, they're educated on what they're going to expect from us, to make sure that there's no mismanaged expectations that are beyond our control, and just kicking off right away, getting everybody excited and built in. I mean, that you're setting the tone for the culture right there on the spot.
Yeah. Yes, you are.
There's the best article I've seen though on your website. I don't know what this guy's sounds like, a really good looking dude. It's the power of the Google Business. Anyway, I'm trying to shamelessly plug the article that I was honored with providing about Google Business Profiles, and we talk about this till I'm red in the face. People listen to it, I'm sure. Guys out there, take a look at that article. About your Google Business Profile. Don't neglect it anymore. And if you do have somebody managing it, even more important, if you're paying for somebody to manage your Google Business Profile, so many things have changed since then that you really need to take a look at this and make sure you're holding people accountable and you're actually doing it right. Lastly, I guess, big topic. This is something that I've noticed, and maybe I'm wrong, or maybe I've just been blinded. And now that I've had Go Cool on, and I've had a couple other guests talking about this particular subject, selling the business. Am I crazy, or is this thing is that something that's been heating up the last couple of years with, guys that are just trying to, have an exit plan?
Yes, it has definitely been hot. I think it's going to slow down now to a certain extent. I don't think companies like ATI or Blue Sky or Custom are going to be slowing down on their adventures, but I think most of the big companies that were ready to sell probably have. I think I think the private equity interest, especially now that interest rates and stuff like that have changed, multiples are changing, and PE interest might slow down a little bit, but I think overall, we're still going through this big generational change within the industry, and a lot of the boomers getting ready to retire and sell. The pandemic, it triggered a lot of that, a lot of burnout. I'm like, okay, I'm really done now. This was great. Where I'm out.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of owners are preparing to sell. I know of quite a few companies that are, they're ready and ready to make that transition. So a lot of it now is just figuring out what they need to do to prepare their business to sell. I'm sure that there are people listening to this that are in that boat. Yeah. So I guess the good news on that is there are brokers in the industry who know how to prepare companies to sell and increase those multiples and help with the leadership change, whatever that may look like. So I guess we'll see where it goes. But with interest rates and stuff like that, I can't imagine that it's not going to be quite the feeding frenzy that it has been. I mean, even going to some industry events the last few years, it's been like, whoa, there's a lot of closed door meetings going on here. And
well, I thought it was really cool when we had Go Cool on that he mentioned. And so if you're listening to this, back it up even more. Every single business should be built with an exit strategy. And I have always believed that, you build it up, you do it right, have good systems in place, and sell it, move on. What's next? At some point, as an entrepreneur, you have to have an exit strategy because you can't do it from the grave. What I thought was really cool, and this is some kickback that I've talked to other business owners, is I'm going to give this to my children, or I've got a successor. And what I thought was really cool is Go Cool. And I don't remember the exact percentage, but it was mind blowing that such a low percentage of businesses historically ever have that succession plan work. Yeah. It blew my mind. I would have thought it was 50-50. I thought, I have uncles that own business, they want to give it to their kids. And now that I think back on it, none of them are or are going to. The kids have their own interests. They might be part of a generation that, look, let's face it, there's the generation of getting your hands dirty and getting out and working and dealing with that feels like it's kind of going away. So part of the issue with every business is trying to figure out how to cater to the next generation of people who are going to be business owners there. So I thought that was really interesting. If you do own a business,
find the stats. I'm looking. Keep
oh
talking.
yeah, look them up. I'll keep going while you go.
It is interesting if I can find them.
Yeah, so you have to have an exit strategy. And what's really cool about C&R Magazine is, you've aggregated the best of the best and guys that have a proven track record from everything from marketing to business operations to culture to like literally everything about running a business. And it's not even, yes, it's focused on the restoration and cleaning industry, but these concepts can be applied to any business. Yep. Anything that you want to achieve in your life, because they really, again, they all boil down to the core principles. You found the stats?
I did.
All right, let's go.
Okay, so I'm going to list off 5 different stats because it's all related to kind of this M&A and transition stuff. So 7% of all restoration owners will transition their business every year. 80% of owners have no exit plan, and 70% of businesses are completely unsellable. So only 30% are even ready to sell right now. But then if we're talking about the family business, which so many of us are, so many businesses in the industry are, only 30% make it to the second generation, and only less than 12 make it to the third generation.
Yeah, so, that's crazy to me. But it makes sense talking to Go Cool and reading some of your articles that that totally makes sense.
Yeah. Gokul is a wealth of knowledge.
He's
I think
awesome.
people look at him as just a broker, but he knows his stuff. He's owned multiple businesses, and he knows. He's coached me some on the side with some of my new business owner lessons over here. So yeah,
he was really great guest. Yeah, I was surprised actually. I really, I didn't know Jenny and I connected. And then we got him on, and me and him clicked right away. I'm looking forward to seeing him at some association events and stuff like that in the future. You as well, obviously. So that's cool. So we talked about selling, we talked about culture, we talked about the magazine. When we did the kind of the questionnaire, what I thought was really cool is that you've actually created a ton of awards at C&R. Can you walk me through a few of those awards and kind of explain them? Because some are pretty straightforward. I guess the Golden Quill, I would imagine, has something to do with writing.
Yes. That goes back a ways. I don't know when they started Golden Quill, but the RIA started Golden Quill to recognize the best authors over the years. I had somebody, I thought this was fun, somebody who won the award, I think in the 90s. His name was Bob, reached out to me last week and was like, hey, I lost my copy of the magazine. Do you have the archive somewhere? I'm like, yeah.
Wow.
Gonna take me a minute. I just within the last 2 months came into possession of hard copies of all the issues of C&R going back to 1985, I think is what I have, which I'm really excited about. But now in the digital age, we're also kind of past the point when there are any businesses that are like digitizing stuff like that. So I have yet to figure out how I'm going to get those digital, but that's a goal, to have more C&R archives available someday.
That's really cool. I love history and things like that. One of the awards though, that you guys founded, you recently founded the Women in Restoration Award and the Ladder Award. I want to learn a little bit more about that, and I'm sure everybody listening does too.
Sure. Okay, so I did start those. Those are over at R&R, but people can go check those out because they are both very good awards. So the Women in Restoration Award recognizes top leading glass ceiling shattering type women. So like Katie Smith, who's the president of the RIA, she won the last year that I was with R&R, and they've had some other women, both from franchises and independents. I can tell you the woman who won the second year, I think she won in 2017. Her name's Shelly Bagwell. She has worked in a number of businesses now and as a consultant. And like, there are just some amazing women who have won that award over the years that are well worth looking into, researching, meeting, especially if you're a woman in restoration looking to make some connections. There are some really amazing women, all of whom are open to relationships and networking and all of that, who've won that award. And then the Ladder Award I started right before I left R&R to celebrate kind of young and up and coming people in the industry. So at C&R, I just started the Unsung Heroes Award. So every year we're recognizing three people from within the restoration industry that are, so there's 3 categories every year. People can nominate people from their company. The idea, all right, I'm going to back up a little bit. So in our industry, other than the 2 awards that I just talked about, there's a number of awards that recognize leader, like the owners and CEO level. And like
Right.
the upper leaders, and there's very little opportunity to be recognized for just working your butt off and being really freaking good at your job, being a really
During
good
my life.
being a really good salesperson, being a really good whatever.
Yeah.
There's nothing like that. Like even the Women in Restoration Award, that's specifically for women. The Ladder Award specifically for someone young who's not been in the industry that long, right? So I wanted to create something that celebrated kind of these everyday heroes in restoration. So every year we're recognizing somebody who is in an office position. So that includes sales, marketing, accounting, reception, those kind of things. Then there's a field person who's recognized. So project managers, estimators, technicians, those level people. And then there's the executive, the C-suite level. So then we are talking owners, operations, VPs, those kind of people. This year, a project coordinator won for the office category, which was awesome. She is part of ATI.
Okay.
Checking myself before I say these things out loud. And then a really, really amazing operations manager for several departments at Dalworth Restoration, which is now part of Fleet, also won. And then the third person who was supposed to win for, I guess it would have been C-suite then, ended up leaving their company right before we were able to present the award. Two for the first year, but
had they only have known that they were getting the award. Had they only have known. And if you are that person listening to this, I'm very sorry. Have you ever thought about giving yourself the Women in Restoration Award? Is that possible? Or
I have not.
Can we nominate you?
No.
All right. I figured I'd try.
Thanks. I appreciate that. I mean, I think women in the industry have come a long way, even just since I've been a part of it, not necessarily because of the award, but there's been things like Violand Management Associates had their Women in Leadership half day event that they did every year up until I think last year. And that was so helpful for meeting and networking with people. And now Fleet they have a women's breakfast at the RA event every year. And then there was the award and just different things where I think it feels like you're less on an island now.
Yeah. No, that's really awesome. So that's really cool. It was really fun to get to know you a little bit more. And I hope all the listeners got some value out of here. Since you have aggregated the industry's best in every aspect of operating a business, a restoration and cleaning business, could you maybe list off a few people that are must follows, must watch kind of people that are in the industry that our listeners can kind of jot down and make sure that they're following? And if you've gotten anything out of this, join these associations and be present in the industry. There's a lot that you can learn. If you're not learning, you're probably asleep. So walk me through some of the people that we want to follow and make sure that we have on our radar.
Okay. And I will try to not hurt anyone's feelings by leaving them off of my list. No, I'm kidding. Gosh. Okay. So Gokul Restoration Brokers of America is a great one to follow. They're not just going to give you advice on selling. They have a lot of advice on business management, cash flow, all those kind of things. So he's also Gokul's huge into statistics. And so he releases a lot of great nuggets out there. I recommend following Know How. They've done a number of industry studies over the last few years. So they're partnering with C&R this year to do our State of the Industry study, which is going to be rolling out in the November-December issue. And there's some really, really interesting data that we've collected. I'm really excited. This is going to serve as a great, I think, benchmark for the industry. And we asked about everything from pricing and pricing feedback to TPA percentage of your business to revenue to what's your number one pain point to software preferences, technology outside of the normal software. What are people using? What kind of InsurTech are you embracing? I'm hoping that this is going to bring a lot of really, really good data. And Know How is a great organization that's also kind of constantly pumping out, I guess, like you, Ben, a lot. I think the best marketers and the best vendors in the industry, if I'm tossing out some of them, are the ones that are really, really good at educating people and they're not constantly product pushing, right? So I would say RBA and Know How are both of those. John Isaacson is a great one to follow. Jarrett Steer and his podcast, he's a great person to follow. Rico Garcia has another like restoration domination podcast and completely kind of different format.
Yeah. I've been on that one. It's funny I think he lives like 2 miles away from me, and we're both so busy we've yet to grab lunch.
You should.
I know. I love lunch.
I love lunch. I love brunch if it involves.
I love all the foods. I guess all the times that you're set to eat. And even the ones that are surprising times to eat, I like those too. I'm just big food guy.
Okay, I can appreciate that. I'm trying to think like, oh.
Well, how about this? We can make it easy. And I really appreciate, because some of these I've been jotting notes down, because some of these people I'm not aware of at all. And I'm huge on learning and educating myself. I firmly believe in educating whoever wants to listen to me. One of my core values in everything I've ever done in my life, I mean, I have nonprofits that I've managed. I have multiple businesses, even working for other people, is I truly believe in doing the right thing and teaching people the right way. One, because I care and I want to help, but two, as a marketer or a business owner, it really makes my life a lot easier for just everything if I'm dealing with people who are educated enough to understand what it is that they're getting into.
Yeah.
And our success rate with clients is much higher on the ones that actually know what's going on versus the guys that are, monthly, like, hey, this isn't working. I'm out, and, I'm going to go bounce to the next company. But overall, if you guys are looking for the best of to follow outside of joining all the associations, you need to get it on C&R Magazine. I think it's cnrmagazine.com. cnrmagazine.com. Subscribe to the newsletter, subscribe to the e-zine, go on their website daily when you have time, when you're eating lunch or brunch or any of the surprise foods you may be eating during the day like me. And then get the hard copy. I've just got my first issue, and it's awesome. I'm digging through
free.
it.
You can't beat free. Nothing's free anymore.
Nothing is free anymore. And this is a really cool way to, you have a search feature on your site. So if there's something you're struggling with, go on there, look it up. I mean, what other better place? And following all these different podcasts is really important and amazing. Hopefully you're listening to mine. And Michelle, you have an awesome podcast as well. How do we get in touch with your podcast, by the way?
Mine is called Restoration Today. You can type it into whatever podcast platform you prefer to listen on. You should be able to find it on all the major ones. Something else I was going to toss out. Yeah. You talked about Rebels, and we talked some about social groups online. Yes. Phil Rosebrook has a restoration business owners group on LinkedIn. He's got like 10,000 business owners in there. Wow. And that's a really good group. And he's constantly posting from even like Claims Magazine and other places where he's really good at kind of populating all the information that's getting released across the industry and on different platforms. So that's a really good group to go and try to join. There's lots of good conversations there and a lot of good information shared. And that one's I
appreciate that. You can't overstate how important it is to, call them mentors, call them whatever you want to call them, but it's people that have been there, done that. You should be listening. Why make mistakes when you really can just take a minute and breathe and learn yourself? And it just helps with every little aspect of your business. Wrapping up, listen, I cannot thank you enough for coming on today. It was really cool to get to know you a little bit more. I hope to have you on in the future a little bit more to help educate our user base and help guide people and be the beacon of light to get them over to C&R to learn more and really empower these business owners. If anybody wants to get in touch with Michelle, facebook.com, C&R Magazine. She's on Instagram. She's on LinkedIn. She's even got a huge website with all kinds of resources, if you didn't already know, called cnrmagazine.com.
If you missed
that, I know we didn't really talk about it a whole lot, and I'm sorry about that. Maybe next time we'll talk about your magazine a little bit more, or the website. But Michelle, thank you so much. So yeah. And listen, if you haven't heard of C&R, like get on it. And if you have, and you're just kind of like passively, deleting emails or whatever that you get from, like, open them up and read. You never know when I might even pop on and have an article about marketing or something that you're doing. Because look, you're spending money on a lot of these third-party resources. So you should educate yourself on what you're actually spending money on, because you can save yourself a lot of time, energy, headaches, etc.
That's right. Well, Ben, thank you very much. I appreciate being on here, and it's a pleasure getting to chat with you. And I look forward to more articles on C&R whenever you find time to write. You are more than welcome. I love the wealth of knowledge, and I think you also are able to come at it from a different angle than some of the other marketers do. So I appreciate that and your expertise as well.
Thank you so much. And thank you guys for tuning in. This is the Restoration Rundown podcast, and we just had Michelle Blevins from C&R Magazine. We'll talk to you guys soon.